Level 1. The worry that the card gets declined. You are at a register, and there are 4 people behind you, and you are watching a small machine. The total is $61. You know what's in the account, roughly, and roughly is the problem. Because roughly is a range, and the bottom of the range is a number where this doesn't go through. So you watch the screen. And you have already built the sentence you'll say if it fails, something light, something about trying a different card. And you've built this sentence before because you build it every time. It goes through. It usually goes through. You still walked into that store. Already tired from something that hadn't happened yet. That's the level, not the $61. The rehearsal. You have a small piece of your mind permanently allocated to imagining a humiliation. And it runs in the background at every register, every month, for years. And it has never once been counted as work. You've also done the other thing, the one nobody admits to. You've put items back. Not dramatically. You just decide, somewhere around the third aisle, that you don't really want the thing. And you set it on a shelf it doesn't belong on. And you keep walking as though the decision were about preference. You make $40,000 a year. Let's be exact about what that is, because the number is doing something dishonest when you say it out loud. $40,000 a year is about $2,600 a month after tax. Rent is $1,100. The car is $300 with insurance. Phone, utilities, the subscriptions you've forgotten. Food. You are not poor. That's what makes it confusing. You have a job people call decent. You are doing the thing you were told to do, and you're doing it competently, and you have been doing it for years. And there is nothing left at the end of the month, and the arithmetic says there was never going to be. So you conclude the problem is you. Everyone at 40,000 concludes the problem is themselves, because the alternative conclusion is uncomfortable and nobody voices it. So let's voice it. The problem is that $40,000 a year is priced for a life that costs 38, and every unexpected thing is therefore a crisis, and unexpected things are not unexpected. They happen at a completely predictable rate. So you are living inside a system that guarantees a crisis every few months and then charges you interest for having one. You are not bad with money. There isn't enough money for you to be bad with. Now here's the part that matters, and it's the whole reason you're watching this. You think you're chasing a number. You are not. Ask yourself what never worrying about money would actually feel like, and you will not describe a balance. You'll describe a register where you don't watch the screen. A phone that rings from an unknown number and you answer it. A car noise you can just take to a shop. Those are not one thing. They are 8 things. And they leave one at a time, in a fixed order, and nobody skips one. That's the video. 8 worries. Each one dies at a specific level, permanently, and never comes back, and the money is just what kills them. You put $20 away this Friday. It does nothing. It cannot survive a single flat tire. You do it anyway, because the first worry does not die when you have enough money. It dies when you have enough of a floor that the range you carry in your head has a bottom you can live with. You don't have savings at $40,000 a year. You have a rehearsed sentence you say at registers, and you have just started buying your way out of it. Level 2. $500. The worry that a small thing becomes a large thing. $500 takes you 4 months, and the 4 months are not a straight line. You get to 200, and something takes it. You get to 350, and something takes it. You restart twice without ceremony, which is not a triumph of character. It's just that the alternative is going back to the register. Then the alternator goes, and it's $480. Here is what used to happen. The $480 went on a card at 26%, or it went unpaid and became a bigger problem. Or you borrowed it from someone, and that changed a relationship in a small way that never fully changed back. The $480 was never $480. It was $480 that grew, that followed you into next year, that changed what you ate. The guy at the shop tells you the number the way people tell you numbers when the number isn't going to change their week. $480. He asks how you want to handle it. He's got a card reader turned toward you and a completely pleasant expression and no idea at all what he's just said. Today you pay it. From savings. In one transaction, in about 40 seconds. Then you sit in the car for a second because something is different and you can't name it yet. The problem cost $480 and it stayed $480. It didn't grow. It didn't compound. It didn't send you anything in the mail 3 months from now. It happened, it got handled, and it's over, and you have never in your adult life had a problem that was simply over. That's the second worry dying. Not the fear of the expense. The fear of the aftermath. Because at zero, every problem is a problem plus interest plus months. You have been paying a surcharge on being alive for your entire adult life, and it just stopped, quietly, for the first time, and nobody announced it. You put the 500 back over the next 4 months. It's annoying. It is not a catastrophe. That distinction is the entire level. And here's what nobody tells you about the $500, which is that it is worth vastly more than $500. $500 is the difference between an alternator and a spiral. That's not a metaphor about mindset. The man without it pays $130 in interest on that alternator over the next year. The man with it pays zero. Same car, same failure, same salary, and one of them is $300 poorer by December for the crime of not having $500 in March. Poor is expensive. That's the mechanism, and once you see it, you can't stop seeing it, and it explains most of your 20s. You don't have security at $500. You have a problem that was allowed to end. Level 3. $2,000. The worry about the phone. You notice this one by accident, months after it happens. Your phone rings. Unknown number. You answer it. You don't think about it. You just answer, the way people answer phones, and it's something ordinary, and you hang up. And 40 minutes later, you're doing something else when it lands on you. You used to not answer. You never decided that. It wasn't a policy. Somewhere in your 20s, you developed a reflex, the way an animal learns a sound. And unknown numbers meant collections, or an appointment you couldn't pay for, or a person who wanted something you didn't have. So the phone rang and you looked at it, and you let it go, every time, for years. The reflex left, and you didn't notice it leaving. That's how these worries die. Not with a moment. They just stop, and the absence is only visible in the rear view. The mail is the same. You used to scan the envelopes for the ones with windows before you brought them inside. Now you open them standing at the counter, all of them, in any order, and it means nothing at all. $2,000 did that. Not because $2,000 is a lot of money. Because $2,000 means nothing arriving in that mail can end you this month, and the body figures that out before the mind does. This is also the level where the first real temptation shows up, so name it. $2,000 is enough to buy something. Something real, something you have wanted for years and denied yourself so consistently that the denying has become a personality trait. It sits there in the account, available, and it would feel extraordinary for about 6 weeks. You buy something small instead, deliberately. One thing, not out of discipline, because you have been in survival mode for so long that spending on yourself trips an alarm, and a man who lets that alarm run for a decade eventually detonates, and the detonation costs more than the thing ever would have. So you spend a little on purpose to keep the pressure from building, and you keep the rest, and you feel weird about it for a day, and then it's fine. Then the harder part of this level, which isn't financial. You have to start saying no out loud. A trip everyone's taking. A dinner where the bill gets split evenly and your share of other people's wine is $30. A wedding that costs $1,100 to attend properly. At $40,000 with nothing saved, you went. You went and put it on a card and hated yourself in the car afterward, because the alternative was saying the true sentence, and the true sentence felt unsayable. You say it now. Some version of it. Money's tight. I'm sitting this one out. 2 people are weird about it. Everyone else says fine. And the exposure you spent a decade terrified of costs you 2 mildly awkward conversations and buys you the entire rest of this climb. Because a man who cannot say that sentence does not get past level 3 at any income on earth. You don't have money at $2,000. You have your phone back, and your mail, and a sentence you can now say out loud. Level 4. $8,000. The worry that your job owns you. Something changes at $8,000, and it does not show up anywhere. You get a text about work. A schedule change, a new demand, some indignity from a manager who has been building toward it for months. You read it. Nothing happens. At $40,000 with nothing behind you, that text moved through your body like current, because that job was the only thing standing between you and the register and the unknown numbers and the whole apparatus you just spent 3 levels dismantling. The job wasn't a job. It was a life support system with a man attached to it who could be in a bad mood. $8,000 is about 4 months. For months where rent gets paid whether or not that man is pleased with you. The text arrives into a body with 4 months of floor underneath it, and the body simply stops producing the chemical. You didn't buy freedom at $8,000. You bought the ability to hear bad news without your hands going cold, And that is the first thing on this entire road that feels like getting ahead. Then you use it, and using it is the level. Someone asks you to absorb something that isn't yours, in the tone people use when they've already assumed the answer, and you say that doesn't work for me. Then you don't fill the silence. That's the part you didn't plan. It runs about 2 seconds longer than silences normally run, and you let it, and somebody else fills it, and the thing moves off your desk. You walk back to your seat slightly stunned, because that sentence was available to you every single day for 11 years, and you could not physically produce it. And today it came out flat and unremarkable, and the building did not fall down. Here's what you understand a few weeks later, and it rewrites your entire employment history. Every negotiation you ever lost, you lost before you walked into the room. You lost it at your balance. The raise you didn't ask for, the boundary you didn't hold, the job you stayed in 2 years too long. None of that was a failure of nerve. All of it was arithmetic, and you were running the arithmetic of a man with no floor, and the arithmetic was correct. Leverage was never a personality. It was a balance sheet wearing a personality. And now, at $8,000, you go and do the thing that changes the trajectory of everything after this. You ask for more money, not because you're brave, because you can survive the answer. That's the only thing that changed, and it's everything, and the ask is free, and you have never once asked in 11 years because you could not afford to be told no. You practice it in a car, out loud, twice, which is embarrassing and helps. Then you sit across from someone, and you say a number, and there is a pause afterward that you do not interrupt, and the pause is the entire technique, and nobody ever tells you that the pause is the technique. The number moves. Maybe not the whole way. It moves. 40,000 becomes 48, or you find something else that pays 52, and the entire rest of this video runs on that increase. And the increase was purchased with $8,000 of floor. You don't have savings at $8,000. You have 4 months of floor and the first raise you were ever in a position to ask for. Level 5, $25,000. The worry about the thing you can't predict. $25,000 is where the emergency stops being a category. This is the level where the worries you've killed so far were all one worry wearing different clothes, and now you kill the parent. You have never actually been afraid of car repairs or dentists or vet bills or a month of reduced hours. You've been afraid of the unpredictable, of the fact that something will happen that you did not plan for and cannot control and cannot afford, and that it will happen at a time of its choosing, and that this is permanently true and there is no version of your life where it stops being true. $25,000 is roughly a year. A year is different from 4 months in a way that 4 months was not different from 4 weeks. A year covers a layoff. A year covers a health event with a recovery attached. A year covers the thing you cannot name in advance, which is the entire category of things that has been frightening you since you were 22. You are not immune. Nobody gets immune. But the class of event that can destroy you just shrank from anything to almost nothing. And the difference between anything and almost nothing is where the worrying lies. Then the market does what markets do. You've been investing for a couple of years now, because at some point you understood that a savings account loses to inflation. And the boring index fund is the best financial product available to any human being, and you put money there on a schedule. It falls 19% in a March. 25,000 becomes 20,200. You lose $4,800 in 11 days, which is more than a year of your contributions, evaporating while you eat lunch and answer emails and are a person. Here's what you need to know, because this level ends more journeys than any other. You are not being tested on intelligence. You know the chart. You know the 200-year line. You know it the way you know the capital of France, completely. And it will not help you at 3 in the morning. You're being tested on your body. And your body has felt this before. At $500, when the alternator took 480. Same feeling. Identical. Same hour of the night. Same phone. Same darkroom. The number multiplied by 10 and the sensation did not change at all. The feeling does not scale. That's the discovery, and it's the thing that makes every level below this one worth having survived. It's the same size at every balance, forever, so the only variable is whether you already learned to sit inside it. And you learned that for $480, which is the cheapest tuition anyone ever pays for it. The news is loud. It has a reason attached, a serious one, the kind that makes recovery sound structurally impossible. And the terrifying part is that the reason is real. It is always real. Every one of these has a genuine, unprecedented, well-argued reason why this time it doesn't come back, including every single one that came back. You open the app at a red light. You shouldn't. You do. It's down again since this morning. And the light turns green, and somebody behind you leans on the horn, and you drive the rest of the way home doing arithmetic you already know the answer to. You don't sell. You keep contributing on schedule into an account that's falling faster than you can add to it, which feels like bailing a boat with a spoon and is in fact the highest returning money you will ever deploy. It recovers in 7 months. Your best financial decision was not a decision. It was the absence of one. You made money in that crash by being too stubborn to open a form. You don't have wealth at $25,000. You have a year and a nervous system that has watched the number go backwards and stayed in its chair. Level 6. $90,000. The worry that you started too late. This one is different from the others because it isn't about an event. It's about time, and time doesn't send you a bill, it just sits there. $90,000, and the account went up more than you put in this year. You read that line twice, because for your entire life, every dollar you held arrived because your body carried it, and there are several $1,000s in there that arrived on their own. That money came from the money. You have hired a second worker. He never sleeps, never gets sick, never has a bad month, never asks for anything, and he gets a raise every year that you don't have to fight for. This year, he earns about $7,000. $7,000 is 7 weeks of your life at $40,000 a year, produced while you were asleep, by nothing. And then the worry arrives, and it's the one that has been waiting the whole time. You are not young. You started this at an age where other people had already been doing it for a decade. You know men your age with 3 times this. Some of them are not smarter than you, and several of them work less than you. And the difference is that a version of them started earlier, or a parent explained something, or they were handed a floor at 22 that you had to build at 34. The voice says you missed it. The voice says compound interest is a young man's game, and the window closed, and the honest thing now is to accept the shape of your life. There's a guy at work, younger than you, who talks about his portfolio at lunch the way people talk about weather. His father sat him down at 22 and explained a thing your father never explained to you, because your father didn't know it either, because nobody had explained it to him. He isn't smarter than you. You've watched him struggle with things you find easy. He just got handed a map at an age when you were handed a shift. Here's the answer, and it's the load-bearing sentence of this entire video. You are not racing them. You were never racing them. You're racing the version of yourself who watched a video like this one at $40,000 a year and did nothing. He exists. He's out there right now, same age as you, still rehearsing a sentence at a register, still not answering unknown numbers, because he agreed with the voice when it said it was too late. That man is your actual competition. You are beating him by $90,000 and 8 dead worries, and that is the only race that was ever real. The men with 3 times this are running a race that started before you were allowed on the track. Watching their race is precisely how the voice gets you to quit yours. And notice what the voice has to ignore to make its case. $90,000 at 8%, left alone for 20 years, with no further contributions at all, is more than $400,000. You could stop today, add nothing, and the second worker would take you somewhere the man at 40,000 cannot see from where he stands. You are not late. You're behind a schedule you invented by comparing yourself to people whose starting line was moved for them. You don't have enough at $90,000. You have a second worker and the correct answer to the only voice that could still stop you. Level 7. $300,000. The worry about the people you love. The worries so far have all been about you. This one isn't, and that's why it's last before the end, and it's the heaviest one on the list. $300,000 produces about $24,000 a year on its own. That's most of what you used to earn with your entire body and your entire week, arriving now without your involvement. But that's not the level. The level is a phone call. Someone in your family needs something. Not a crisis. A normal amount. The kind of number that would have detonated your entire year at 40,000. And it would have detonated it in a specific way, which is that you would have had to say no, and the no would have been about money, but it would have felt like it was about love. You cover it. In an afternoon. You don't feel the strain. Then you sit in the car for a minute afterward, because you remember every time someone in your life needed something, and you had to invent a reason. Not the truth. A reason. A schedule conflict, a thing you had going on, Some fiction that let you decline without saying I can't afford it. Because at 40,000 that sentence was unsayable, and you would rather have seemed unreliable than seemed broke. You can remember specific ones. A birthday you skipped and blamed on work. A hospital visit you made short because the parking was $11 and you had counted it that morning. Nobody ever knew. That was the point, and it worked, and it cost you more than the $11. You spent years being a slightly worse son or brother or friend than you actually were, because the true explanation was too expensive to say. That's the worry that dies here. Not that you'll be poor. That being poor will make you look like someone who doesn't show up. And then there's the harder half of this level, and it's the one people don't say out loud. You start being able to do things that change the position of the people around you. A deposit for somebody. A month of breathing room for somebody else. And you have to learn something that nobody teaches, which is that money given badly can damage a person, and money given well is nearly invisible. And the difference is whether the giving comes with a story about who you are now. You do it quietly. You don't make speeches. The speech would be about you. Here's what you understand at $300,000 that you could not have understood at any level below it. The floor you built is not just yours anymore. It is under other people, and they mostly don't know it's there, and that is the correct way for it to be. The kid, the parent, the sibling, whoever it is standing on something you carried up from a register where you rehearsed a sentence about trying a different card. You don't have wealth at $300,000. You have a floor wide enough for other people to stand on without knowing they're standing on it. Level 8. $750,000 and up. The level where the worry itself is gone. There's no moment. There is never a moment, and you've stopped expecting one. What happens instead is that one day, doing something ordinary, you notice a silence. There has been a sound running underneath every single day of your adult life. It's not a thought. It's lower than a thought. It's the constant background awareness of a number and whether the number is enough for the thing that is about to happen. And it ran at the register and in the mail, and when the phone rang, and when the car made a noise, and when someone you loved needed something. It's gone. And the absence is so complete that you only notice it by realizing you stopped listening for it. That's what never worrying about money actually is. Not a balance. The end of a sound. You test it, once, almost as an experiment. You're at a register and the total comes up and you deliberately try to feel the old thing, the way you'd press on a tooth that used to hurt. There's nothing there. Not bravado, not relief. Just a number on a screen that is a piece of information rather than a verdict, the way it has always been for other people, the way you assumed it must be for them and could never confirm. $750,000 produces around $60,000 a year on its own, which is more than you earned at $40,000, more than you earned at 52. Arriving whether you get up or not, arriving if you're sick, arriving if you're fired, arriving every year for the rest of your life, and growing while it does. You have left the labor market, not by working harder than everyone else. Some of them worked harder than you and are still working. You left because years ago you started feeding a machine that has been running continuously ever since, and it never needed you to be exceptional. It needed you to be uninterrupted. That's the whole thing. Uninterrupted. Now here's the answer to the title, and it's the reason none of these can be skipped. Every level was a worry, and every worry died in a fixed order, because each one was built on top of the one below it. The rehearsal at the register dies at a few $100s. The aftermath dies at $500. The phone comes back at $2,000. The job stops owning you at $8,000, and that's what lets you ask for more money, and the raise is what funds everything above it. The unpredictable stops being fatal at $25,000, and the crash you survive there is what lets you hold anything at all. The second worker shows up at $90,000 and answers the voice about being late. The people you love stop being a source of shame at $300,000. You cannot do those out of order, and you cannot buy them in a bundle. That's why a man handed $750,000 at $40,000 a year does not stop worrying about money. He has the number and none of the levels. He never learned that a problem can simply end, so he still braces. He never asked for a raise from a position of safety, so he never learned what his own no sounds like. He never watched a number fall and stayed in his chair, so the first bad march empties him. The worry is not caused by the amount. The worry is caused by the absence of the levels, and the levels are made out of specific bad nights that you got through. Look back at the man at the register. $61. For people behind him, a sentence already built and waiting in his mouth. He thought he needed money. He needed 8 worries to die in order, and the money was just the thing that killed them, and there is no way to explain that to him at the register and no reason to try. Somewhere right now, someone is standing at a register watching a small machine, with a light sentence prepared about trying a different card. They make $40,000 a year. They are doing everything they were told to do, and there is nothing left at the end of the month. And they have concluded that the problem is them. The problem is not them. There isn't enough money there for anyone to be bad with, and the fix is not a mindset, and it is not a budgeting app. It's 8 floors built one at a time over years, each one killing exactly one thing that has been following them since they were 22. The first floor costs $20 this Friday. You are the same person you were at that register. The floors just decided how much of your attention belongs to you.